Okay, so if you've been following my channel from the end of July to the end of August, then you would know that I watched Symphogear. That is not just Symphogear as in the first season, that is Symphogear as in all fucking five. Gear, G, GX, Axis, and XV. Finishing it a week I think about 2 weeks ago now. And, I just want to talk about it. Talk about the things I liked, the things I didn't like, just some of the overall themes, and then just a bunch of ranking lists. Kind of like what I did with Fate Stay Night. Just like, yeah, here's ranking like my favorite like my bleh. A lot of season rankings, like which season to me had the best character fight songs, which seasons had the best openings, the best antagonists, climaxes, etc., etc., and then by the end saying, this is my ranking of all 5 seasons. Here we go. So, starting off, I want to talk about the themes of Symphogear, and to me, there's 2 really big ones. The first one, which is kind of the shorter one, is just, it is a show about friendship. It is a show where literally a couple times, like the climax of the first season is the 3 main characters standing and holding hands while fighting the final boss. And there's a recurring theme in season 2 about how it's like, yeah, when Hibiki like holds her friend's hands, they can do anything. It's like she can tune them. That's like her internal power, her internal song. It's wonderful. And I mean, I guess that's also another theme that maybe kind of goes into the other one, but it's maybe a little bit separate. It's just the power of music. It's that music is awesome. Music is fucking beautiful. Music can hype people up, and like if you know what you're doing, you can use music to like protect people. Music can save the world, and it can inspire, and all that kind of good shit. Like that is a main aspect of Tsubasa's character. You definitely get it with Maria, especially in G. She's like, I want to be able to help people. I want to save people. I don't want to have to do these dirty, underhanded tactics that Mom and Ver are expecting of me. I would rather do it in other ways, more peaceful ways. And then Chris and like Chris's parents were about, let's use the power of music to inspire and to help people and to soothe people. And after they died, Chris was like, I don't believe music can do that kind of shit. I don't believe it has any inherent power. Fuck that shit. And her coming around by the end of season 1. Excuse me, but back to the power of friendship. And like a major part of the story is, for better or for worse, it kind of depends by season. The main antagonists, or at least like the main character, how do I want to put it? Because it's not just the main antagonists of every season, because usually the head honcho is like, this is a piece of shit that can't be reasoned with. Well, even again, that kind of varies season by season. But the more like, these are the people we're regularly fighting. Like in season 1, it's Chris. In season 2, it's the FIS trio, the auto scorers, the Illuminati, and Noble Red. Again, not always. Like, there is no reasoning with the auto scorers. It almost makes them sound like Terminators. What is the line? It's like, they feel no mercy, they feel no, like, joy, they can't be reasoned with, negotiated with, all that kind of shit. But a major theme is that even though this person is fighting you, even though they're on the opposite side, maybe you don't have to. If you actually sit down and talk things out, maybe you can come to an understanding, maybe you can help each other. And yeah, it'll be the villain saying, no, I don't want to fucking talk to you. Or as they do quite a few times in the season when Hibiki's like, hey, can we just talk about this? People on both sides will go, no, we have to fight. What the fuck is wrong with you? And then kind of realize, hey, do we just have a connection because both of us are yelling at the main character? Yeah. Is that going to stop us from beating the shit out of each other? Hell no. And then they just keep going at it. But it's about trying to befriend people, and a major source of Hibiki's conflict is, I really want to help people and communicate with them, but I'm afraid that all I'm actually doing is punching people. Like, I don't remember when it was. I think it was, like, at the end of Axis, after the Bavarian Illuminati trio, like, die, where, she's, like, sitting there, and she's, like, beating the ground with her hands, and she's like, all I do is punch people. Which, out of context, is kind of a funny thing for a character to say. Like, it reminds me of the Mario movies. Like, no, I'm not just a smash monkey. Like, it kind of made me think of that. But in context, it makes a lot of sense. She's like, I have a lot of... Like, I want to empathize with people. I don't want to fight. I want to help. But I feel like sometimes all I can do is bring more pain. These hands don't... My hands don't hold hands because they're not open most of the time. Unfortunately, I have to close them into a fist and start knocking out teeth. And I'd just rather not have to do that. Which does bring to what I consider the big central theme of Symphogear. More than the power of friendship, more than the power of music. The power of fucking communication. That's important. It is important for healthy relationships. Whether it's romantic, whether it's I keep trying to say familial, and I don't know why. Familial. Whether it is strictly platonic, whether it's professional. Communication is important. Friendship is part of that, because you got to be able to communicate with your friends. And that's a big part of season 1, is Hibiki being unable to do that. With Miku going like, I know there's something up with you. As your friend, I trust you enough to know, like, you're okay, and if you need something, you can talk to me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm being left behind. And I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me. And he'd be like, I want to tell you what I'm doing, and that I have superpowers, that I'm fighting aliens. I mean... Are the noise aliens? Not really, because they come from the treasury of Babylon, and then the Alkanoids are just like constructs made from alchemy, so they're not aliens. They're just constructs. But regardless, it's like, I got superpowers, and I'm fighting these monsters and shit, and I wish I could tell you why I have to ditch you and do random shit. Why I'm doing really badly in school. Okay, I'm doing bad in school because I'm also kind of dumb. But also, it's like, this doesn't help because I literally don't have time to do my work. I'm either training, I'm on the job in the field, or I'm sleeping because I was fighting all night and I'm kind of fucked up. It's some like Peter Parker shit, and I like it a lot. And the issues they have. You've got Chris's whole arc in season 1, and then a bit in season 2 and season 3 as well, is her struggling to communicate with the other characters. In season 1, she is an antagonist, but they want to just be friends with her and be able to be like, look, if you're not a terrible person, and it doesn't seem like you are, why don't you join us? Why don't you help us, and we can help you back? And her keeping her walls up because of her backstory, she doesn't trust people. Which is very fucking understandable. You got the FIS girls, like, Tsukuyomi, and I would say even kind of Dr. Vare specifically, with what they do with Vare in season 3, where in season 3 they try to make him more sympathetic. It's like, no, like, he genuinely wants to be a hero. He was just kind of going about it the wrong way in season 2, which, for me, I'm gonna be honest, didn't super work. It's like, okay, this is Symphogear doing what Friendship is Magic does, where they're like, hey, let's just try to make the villain really sympathetic so we can redeem them. And then, like in Friendship is Magic, sometimes it works. Sometimes you get Dr. Vare scenarios where you're like, why? this doesn't help. But with because I remember there's a scene, it's like at the end of episode 1, maybe episode 2, or like halfway through season 2. It's one of the very early episodes of G, where Hibiki's like, yeah, I want to be able to help. Why are you guys doing this? Maybe we could talk it out. And everyone's like, no, we can't talk. We got to kick everyone's ass. And then Tsukuyomi is saying, if you are trying to, like, if you're reaching out to us to help, it makes you a hypocrite because, like, you don't know what we've been through and shit. And I know I talked about this when I talked about G. Like, I think throughout while I was talking about the season, I like the idea of what she's saying, at least the way I interpret what she's trying to say, but the way she says it I think is fucking stupid. Which really speaks to the theme of Symphogear, the whole Curse of Bilal, is that communication is hard. And it's, even though you know what you're trying to say and the point you're trying to get across, it can easily get lost in translation. To me, what Tsukuyomi is trying to say is, we are literally trying to save the world because the fucking moon is falling. We understand that we might not have the cleanest methods, and we don't like that. Like, I don't like that I have to put people in danger. I really hate it. But we are trying to save the world. And if you are trying to stop us, but are claiming that you want to help people, no, you're not, because you're stopping the people who are actually trying to solve the problem. Hypocrite. Okay, makes sense. Hibiki, as someone who, because you get the backstory in G, where she's like, after I was the sole survivor of that concert, and I had to go through intense physical therapy to be able to recover. My family was getting funds from the government because I was a survivor of a noise attack. I was bullied a lot because people thought you're getting money from this incident. You're a thief, you're just, I had something in my head. I completely lost what I forgot, I had a term or something, but I lost it. It was I said, you're a thief, you're a mooch. Maybe that's what I was trying to say. You're essentially a mooch off society, benefiting from this situation. Why didn't you just fucking die? There are so many other people there. Why did you fucking survive? The performer at the concert fucking died. She was cool. Why did she die to save you? That's bullshit. And how that incredibly impacted her life, especially GX, when you find out oh yeah, after that her dad was I can't fucking deal with this shit, and then he left the family. Asshole. Fuck that guy. I'll talk about that shit in a little bit. But Hibiki is I know what it is like I know what it's like to need help. And that's why I want to help people. That's why I don't just want to fight. It's why I want to be able to communicate. It's why, for me, I don't fight because I like to punch things. I fight because I want to protect people. But does it make me a hypocrite if I want to protect people, but all I'm really doing is hurting someone else? Kind of like a Fate Stay Night sort of thing, where it's as Kiritsugu tells Shiro, and Shiro remembers all the time, you can't save everybody. Saving one person means you are choosing not to save another. If you see two people getting into a fight and you intervene on one's behalf, it means you are actively not helping the other person. If there's a fucking fire and you go in there and you save one person from the fire, you're not saving another person who's also in the burning building. You can't save everyone. I know that's not exactly the same situation, but I feel that's kind of what Biki is getting at. She's I can't always save everybody. And it's if I'm protecting, for example, if Maria summons a bunch of noise and I am fighting the noise, it means I'm actively siding against somebody. Not the noise, but I'm siding against Maria. Does that make me a hypocrite because now I have to start fighting this person? I don't know. And as I said during G, I was I don't know if it quite works, but I feel that's what they're going for. At least I feel that's kind of the communication. But the way that Tsukuyomi says it, again, it isn't, you're trying to stop us who are actually helping people. This makes you a hypocrite. The way she says it is, you don't know what it's like to actually need help, so you're a hypocrite. Of course, not actually knowing anything about Hibiki as a person. So it's a really empty accusation, but it works because maybe even though it wasn't communicated right, the real intent got through, or I'm just trying to rationalize it and being well, this is what she said and it was dumb, but this is maybe what she meant and it makes a lot more sense. I don't know, but communication is a big fucking theme in Symphogear. Literally, Carol's entire thing is her dad's final words to her were, "I want you to live and learn about the world." And a sane person would look at that and go, my dad wants me to live and essentially live my life to the fullest. Experience things, learn about the world, go see it, like study things, go to Venice, go to Paris, go to fucking Australia, just like learn about the cultures, about the people, about the geography, all that kind of shit. And Carol, because her mind was so angry, like because her dad was burned at the stake, understandably that she would be upset from that, twisted his words to mean to like, okay, my dad and I are alchemists. How do alchemists learn anything? We dissect, we pull apart. So if he's telling me to learn about the world, I have to dissect the world. Dad wants me to destroy the world and he wants me to get revenge for him. Got it. And like, okay. Communication's a bit. And yeah, like that's also a really big thing. And I know I'm kind of skipping season 4, but season 5 with Miku, like one of my favorite moments, probably in like the whole show, is a conversation between her and Hibiki where they're getting into an argument while Elf9 is singing karaoke in the background, which I don't know why. I think that's just really funny to me. But, like she's just singing her little heart out, and meanwhile these two are just shouting at each other. Like this shouldn't be funny, but the dichotomy just kind of made me giggle. But what I genuinely love about it is Miku saying like, Biki, this is something I've like never been able to communicate properly for years. But I feel so much guilt over your life. Because everything that has happened to you since that concert is because I invited you there. And because of my own shit that was happening, I didn't even get to show up. So I am the reason that you were there, and I can't even experience it with you. I'm sorry, and I've never been able to express that, and I'm so frustrated that I've never been able to express that, and that I have a lot of trouble communicating with you sometimes. Not to say like, oh, it's because you're super dense, you don't understand what I'm saying, but because I don't know how to really put forth my own words, and I fucking wish I could. And Shemha's like, oh, you really want to be able to communicate with someone, huh? You really wish that Curse of Balal wasn't in place, huh? Wow! Which leads to Miku being possessed. Sure, dog, it's Symphogear. This kind of shit can fucking happen, and it's great. Communication is important. That's what I consider the main predominant theme of the show. There's probably a lot of other examples I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head, but that's what I got for the moment. So I want to go ahead and then transition into, for me, these are the main strengths of Symphogear, the shit it does really well. Number 1, the music. It was made by a composer. And yeah, like I said, like the power of music, the fact that, yeah, a composer made an anime about the power of music, that kind of makes sense. I dig that. And the fact that the music is consistently really fucking good. Both the songs that are like the vocal songs, like the fight songs, also just the background music at times. You know, sometimes it is just really hype for the right situation. Sometimes it's just really catchy. The openings all fucking slap. The end, I can't say the endings all slap, because there's a couple that don't quite do it for me overall, but most of the endings I think are really good. I just love how the transformation sequences are triggered by singing a little incantation, and if I'm being honest, I think my favorite song in the whole show is the credits theme. It's somewhere in Axes. I think it's like episode 6 or something, and it's just all the girls singing their incantations as like part of a larger song, and then it ends with them like singing the swan song incantation. Like this is just lovely. This is wonderful. Like, man, all these actresses can fucking sing. This is awesome. So the music's great. The number 2 thing it does well, if you've seen Symphogear, you 100% agree with this. It's how nutty the fucking action is. It's the literal terms I have written down in my notes are nutty action, crazy with crazy, which is one of my favorite lines from the show. It's from a random general dictator, whatever the fuck dude from the first episode of Axe is like, we gotta fight crazy with crazy. And that is literally what every Symphogear fight is, especially first episodes. And fuck if Axis does not have a great first episode. When they literally get into battle with Tsubasa driving her bike, and then Biki, Chris, I want to say Ogawa was there too, are just like being pulled on like a fucking kite. They get down, they're like blocking fucking tank rounds. They end up riding on top of helicopters. Not in helicopters, but they're just standing on the cycling helicopter blades. They shoot a bunch of missiles. I think Chris just shoots a bunch of missiles, and then they start, fucking Biki and Tsubasa are using them as platforms to get closer to an airship, which Tsubasa cuts in half with such precision. She cuts the glasses off the fucking dude that's standing on the airship without actually hurting them. And by far, my favorite moment of that entire episode of all like the crazy little goofy shit, it's when a fucking missile is headed towards a helicopter and Akka and Suka are like, what the fuck do we do? Here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna open the doors. So they open the doors of the helicopter and the missile goes into the helicopter, does not explode, doesn't contact anything, it just goes in and goes out and then fucking blows up. It is nutty as hell. It is fucking insane. It is wonderful. The first 6 minutes of GX where they fucking... It starts with them being launched into space and you just see a fucking missile, and when it opens up, it's just 3 magical girls. So it does action really well. It does hype really well. Symphogear is great at building hype, and I think a lot of that is also because of the music. Because the action music is really good. The fact that the characters are singing, like, you kind of, like, feel it a bit more. It's like, you really feel like how heart-pounding and intense it is. It's like, usually a lot of the songs, like, have really good, catchy beats. That just, I think, sync really well with music. I was listening to the transformations. I was like, I want to hear every girl's transformation song so I can figure out which ones are my favorite for each character. And as much as I like them, because some of them are really fucking good, hearing them without the sound of, like, explosions and shit in the background, I was like, this feels weird. It's like listening to a Persona battle theme without hearing the fucking sounds of, like, shadows exploding in the background, of the, like, critical sound. We just get that, like, Persona! Or, like, having your fucking navigators saying, like, Yosuke-senpai, your agility's really low, or, fuck. I remember Morgana, I can't remember the thing Morgana used to always say. This is now bothering me, because I remember when he was the navigator, he said it all the fucking time. It's almost scary how good... That's it! I remember now. Whenever he knocked enemies down, he never fucking stopped saying it. It's like listening to a Persona battle theme without that. You're like, this is still really fucking good. But it feels weird not hearing the shit in the background. And Symphogear does that too. To me, another thing it does well is I think the main characters are very likable. Sometimes, though, there might be moments where I'm like, alright, this isn't quite working. Or like, you're being a bit of a pain, but it usually doesn't last very long. And I say that, I really can't think. I think, to me, the only example I can think of off the top of my head is that episode in season 3 when Chris is in the Dragon Palace fighting Lear. I can't remember how to actually pronounce her name, but the Earth chick with the coins and the tonfas, which, fuck, that shit was really cool. And she's, Akka and Suka are with her. And Chris, again, poor communication. What she is trying to say is, I am your senpai. I want you to look up to me because I want you to be able to depend on me. This is not just because I'm an egotistical piece of shit. It's because I understand that you guys have your shortcomings and we can work through that together. But I want you to be able to depend on me the way that I am able to depend on my superiors as well, on my senpais like Tsubasa. I want to be able to continue the cycle because it's a healthy cycle. And I don't want to put too much strain on you or put you in danger if I can avoid it, because that's my job. the way she communicates to Taka and Suku, it comes across as, you guys fucking suck. Get out of my way. Which is like, I get what Chris is trying to say. It wasn't communicated very well. Curse of Bilal. Just like chalk one up to the moon. We're gonna shoot the moon. Episode 11 of season 1 is literally called Shoot the Moon. And it makes me so happy. Because I saw that title and didn't know the context. I was like, okay, this means one of two things. Either A, it's, a very just inspirational, magical girl quote. Like, yeah, we gotta shoot for the moon kind of thing. It's like, we're gonna go do cool stuff. It doesn't literally mean they're gonna try to shoot the moon, right? Right. Anyways, the characters are really likable. I just feel like I think I just like their vibes. I like the way they work off each other. In seasons where they're opposed, not so much. Again, like the thing between like Biki and Suku doesn't super work for me throughout G. But even then, like, the FIS girls are all very close to each other. So even when they're antagonists, you do get that sense of a bond. You really get that bond. Like, again, like, Hibiki and Tsubasa do not have a strong bond throughout a good chunk of season 1. But it does slowly grow. And then in later seasons, like, yeah, they can just depend on each other. No fucking questions asked. Same with Chris. I do like, I'm sorry, my brain just fucking stopped. I don't know what the hell I was trying to say. I think I'm just kind of going to end that train of thought there. Just, yeah, overall, I think the main characters tend to be very likable, and I enjoy their chemistries with each other. Oh, also, I think the voice acting's really good. The singing, too, but the actual delivery, I think is usually good. The visuals, they don't start great. Like, the first transformation sequence, I think, is awesome, because it shows the Gungar, like, fucking, like, symbioting onto Hibiki's synapses. She, like, goes in shadow, like, her feral mode, like, the actual, like, mecha parts of the Symphogear are coming out of her back. That is an amazing transformation. Every other transformation in season 1 is really bland. The overall visuals in season 1 are, like, they're okay. There's still some cool shit, like Genjuro punching the giant sword and turning it to dust. Like, that was cool. I liked it. But it just keeps looking better, a lot smoother in every season. Like, the transformation sequences just get more elaborate, with XV's clearly being the best. There was a point where I was like, I want to watch every girl's transformation sequence and be like, what is every girl's best sequence? It's just XV for all of them. That's just what it is. It's just really fucking cool. Like, Axes tend to be really good too, but XV is like, yeah, we just kind of took that and made it better. I do have a ranking, just ranking all of their XV transformations, which we will get to. But I just think the show just tends to look better with every season. And it tends to, like, by the later seasons, it looks really fucking good. But the show is not perfect. So while I talked about the strengths, I do want to talk about what I feel like are some of the show's weaknesses. Number 1, as much as I hate to say this, I feel like... Are you alright, Princess? Here, real quick. Let me... Are you okay? Oh, okay. She's just taking a nap. She's just dreaming. Doggo was fine. Doggo was just, like I just said, I think she was just dreaming. Hopefully she's having a good dream. Weaknesses of Symphogear. Like I was saying, I think character arcs can be really inconsistent. Sometimes, like, the one I was just talking about in G with Hibiki, I like the idea of what they're going for, and I like what it leads to. Like, you're getting Hibiki's backstory, which is really fucking interesting. And the fact that this is someone who's like, I want to always be reaching out to people. I want to help people. You understand why she's like that because of what she went through. But it's execution of the, am I a hypocrite because I'm trying to help somebody? Because I haven't really been through a lot of shit myself, even though I have been through a lot of shit myself. I was like, this doesn't really make sense with the way it's presented. And then you've got Maria and Axis and the whole tomato thing of, you know, it's like these tomatoes had to grow up in a really harsh environment, but it's what made them stronger. And her thing about her own life and Natasha raising her and her little sister. And how, like, yeah, I had to grow up in a harsh environment, but I did come out of it stronger. You know, my mom was a really good person and a really good mom to me because she did her best. And, like, that's an interesting way to frame child abuse. I wouldn't say that I agree at all. That's like, I get the idea, you know, it's like, you know, you got to go through the fire to come out refined. I almost said forged. I was like, yeah, but that's not what we're going with. It was like, yeah, like, you got to go through the fire, then become stronger, become more refined. Cool. I get it. But what you actually see Natasha doing to these kids and saying to these kids is like, yeah, mom had this look on her face when she was beating me with a riding crop until I started bleeding and I could see the regret. She wasn't a bad woman. She didn't like the fact that she had to beat me. She still beat you, dude. Like, are we forgetting this? Like, never mind. I was about to go on a Seacat's tangent because we did our last bit of our tier list yesterday, which I ended with saying watch Symphogear because there was quite a few moments. There's literally a part where I don't remember or almost named like two completely different friends. There was something Clay had said about a character. I think he was like, yo, this character's fine. And my brain immediately was just like, fine. Fine is like, I didn't say anything, but I thought it. I was like, oh my goodness. Literally, I can't hear the word fine anymore without thinking of Symphogear. Oh, this is a problem. This is bad. But, like, the thing with Maria, it's like, this is one of those character arcs where I like the idea, but I don't think it quite works. Hibiki in season 3. Her thing of, I am very conflicted about wanting to fight. Because I don't want to hurt people. I feel like the way what I think they're trying to do in season 2 is what they actually did in season 3. Is I don't want to hurt people. I just want to protect them. I want to be able to reach out to people, so I don't want to fight. And she literally, for a few episodes, has a mental block that keeps her from fighting. I like it. I actually think it works, especially given how, hey, by the end of season 1, she was able to communicate with the main antagonist. She still hookshotted the moon and tried to bring it down to Earth, but she had a redemptive leaving, so they reached an understanding. And then very clearly with Chris, she was able to do that successfully. With the FIS girls, eventually, after a lot of effort, they were able to flip sides. So from Hibiki's perspective, it is like, yeah, I've been able to communicate with my enemies. Not immediately, but it does happen. So that's probably what I should be doing. I shouldn't just be fighting because I don't want to. I don't want to hurt people. I want to connect. I want to help people. And if season 1 and season 2 are anything to go by, I can do that successfully. So I'd rather not fight if I can just talk. I think there's times where she's a little too passive, but I get it overall, and I do think it works. Her relationship with her dad, I don't mind the idea of the ending of it. Where Hibiki decides, I'm gonna forgive him, and if he really wants another chance, I will. Because on the one hand, there's the part of me that's like, dude, Hibiki is literally talking to someone who is saying, I am the murderer of miracles, and I am going to dissect the world and basically kill everybody. Hibiki is trying to talk to this person and convert them to her side. She is not giving her own father the time of day. What the fuck did you do? Like, that's... The fact that this character hates him so much is super interesting, and, like, I'm immediately invested in that relationship. The fact that by the end of the season she would go, you know, if my whole thing is I am willing to, like, communicate with people, hear them out, and try to work with them, I did it with a literal, like, immortal priestess goddess. I did it with the FIS girls, and I've been trying to do it with this alchemist witch lady, and I kind of got through to her by the end. I should be able to do that with my own fucking dad. I should be able, like, if I can forgive them for things they've done, I can forgive him too. That makes sense to me. But again, the way it's executed isn't Hibiki having this emotion, like this moment where she realizes this is what makes me a hypocrite, is the fact that I can forgive them, but I can't forgive him. It's that moment where she realizes, wait a second. You know, my dad used to say this phrase that I now say whenever I'm, like, kind of need to motivate myself or, like, convince myself that I'm okay. I got that from him. He never abandoned me for all those years when, like, me and my family needed him most. He left me with something important. No. Hon. No. He did abandon you. It's like, you can get to the end of the season where she says, it's okay, I'm going to forgive him and move forward. But this, to me, didn't work. Like, this feels like bullshit. Like, I kind of felt a little insulted. It's like, this is how we're doing this? Oh, I can't even be like, okay, it's just, this was not it. Oh boy, this was not it. No, I kind of mentioned this before, but like Chris's arc in season 3, that, like, you know, I want to be a reliable senpai to my to my kohais. It's fine on paper. To me, it felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. I really only remember it in that episode where she's like, no, this is like super important to me. Like, oh, okay. Sure, maybe it was there and I just didn't realize it, but it was just like, okay, and it's just kind of leading to unnecessary conflict, so, you know, chalk one up to the moon, but, huh? It's not like every character arc is dog shit, because, like, even a lot of these, I'm like, I like what they're going for, but I don't know if they're always done super well, so that is something I feel like is a weakness, is kind of the inconsistency of that. The other, to me, really big weakness is the fact that they oftentimes try to make the villain sympathetic when they really don't deserve it. I was just talking about Fine a little bit ago, and how there's a point where she's like, I am literally trying to blow up the moon. Okay, that's gonna have a really bad impact on the planet with, like, tides and shit. But okay, it's like, you've got your reasons. They're actually insanely inherently selfish. You're just like, I did this because I wanted to communicate with God, the Father, who, you know, I love, and, like, let him know how much I feel. And, like, okay, it's not the most sympathetic thing. Okay, like, you want to communicate your love, but, like, this is going to kill a bunch of fucking people. So, okay. After she's beaten, then she's like, I shot a little bit off the moon. I'm going to use my sword like a hook shot, and it goes into space, wraps around the thing, or, like, latches on, and I can yank it down, which is classic Symphogear insane bullshit, and I love it. But it's like, no. You were literally trying to blow up the moon, and now you're like, fuck it. I'm just going to destroy the planet with a fucking asteroid. And then she still gets a sympathetic send-off. What the fuck? You know, if it had been in between, it's like, you know, you're able to, like, you stopped her from doing her thing. You communicated. She realized, all right, I've been a bad. Maybe in my next incarnation, I can be a good person. Okay, that could work. That could be fine. Not after she said, by the way, I'm a sore loser, so fuck your planet. Oh, but now I'm sympathetic. Bye. That doesn't work. Season 2. G, you got the FIS girls, who I feel like are consistently sympathetic the whole way through. They never cross that line, which is kind of the point of their characters. Maria is starting to get there, which is turning Suku against her, and then Akka's like, I I don't really know about this either. Like, everyone's like, fuck that Dr. Bear guy. But Maria never, fully crosses that line. Dr. Bear is on the other side of it, basically, once the season starts. This guy's a massive piece of shit, and I love him. I love him because he's a piece... Okay, I love him because he's voiced by Sugita, and I'm just, as I said throughout G, like, I'm just hearing Gintoki, and this is wonderful. But that's why I love the character. He's allowed to be horrible. He's allowed to be this over-the-top, scummy, cowardly, murderous, possibly super perverted, I think he is, real piece of dog shit. And then in season 3, like, no, we're gonna give him a redemptive send-off, or like, we're gonna bring his character back, kill him off, but he's gonna be able to die being a hero like he wanted. Why? This dude's plan was like, I want to save the world, like, I want to save the human race. I don't want to save any of the people in the human race, mind you. I want to save me, some, probably some girls, and then we can reproduce everything. We're going to be like the new Adam and Eve. It's going to be great. Like, no, he's not sympathetic. That's a, I want to be a hero. He's a piece of shit. He's great at being a piece of shit, but that doesn't mean he deserves or needs to be redeemed. Natasha. Oh my god, I fucking hate Natasha. I can give 3 scenes that basically display why I fucking hate this character, because I think she's a moron. She's supposed to be, like this very in control, tactical, but like very stern, like I'm doing what I need to do to save the world kind of person. And I'm willing to be a terrible mother to these girls that need me and view me as a mother to do it, but it needs to be done. So, there's the fact that she's it's like she views these girls as failures. It's like, you are all failures because you were supposed to be vessels for Fiend, and you weren't. Thus, you suck. And so it's like, owe me your existence. Which, A, is really fucky, and I hate it. But there's the fact that by the end of the scene, like, almost like halfway through, you realize, oh no, Akka is the vessel for Fine. And then later you find out, oh no, we were mistaken, it was actually Tsukuyomi. Gotcha. But like, wait, Natasha. Part of your thing is Fine was supposed to be in one of these girls, and they're not. And that's a problem, right? Yeah. But Fine is in one of these girls. And somehow, despite the fact that you had this big secret underground whatever the fuck, for this exact purpose, you weren't able to figure it out? Literally one of these girls that is right under your nose and actively doing shit to help you. You never found out? Now, I'm assuming this is a lot more recent because Fine was in Ryoko. And you actually see in some flashbacks Ryoko was part of that group. So it seems like, yeah, instead of it going to one of these girls and went to an adult woman. Also, does that mean you didn't realize that like one of your own coworkers ended up being the vessel? You fucking idiot. And then when the vessel got moved, you didn't realize it then either? Huh. Number 2. I don't remember which of these happens first. But there's a part where Akka and Suku go to the girls' school during the culture festival, which part of it is like, we're going to have a nice little time, or a couple of kids. Part of it is also, let's do some recon. And as part of it, they're like, okay, so the school is having a talent show. And if you win the talent show, the student council will grant one of your wishes. Now, I mean, it's something within reason, of course. But we can use this to our advantage. If we win this talent show, we can say that our wish is to get the necklaces of these 3 girls. Because that's the shit they use for transforming. So if we win, we can take them out. And then what do you know? We don't have to deal with the Symphogear users getting in our way anymore. We are literally able to win this battle without getting our hands dirty, without like having to actually kill anybody. We're geniuses. So they enter the competition, like Chris like gives this really beautiful performance of a song, and then they're like, hey, we'll go, and then they do a duet. I think it's literally a duet of the exact same song, and like it was fantastic. I was like, ooh, I'm actually kind of excited to know like who's gonna win this talent show. Like I could kind of see it going both ways. You know, both gave fantastic performances, and you never actually find out who would have won. Maybe it's like in an OVA or something. I still haven't seen the OVAs. But before you can get an answer, before they can find out if they won or not, and potentially just scored, they get a call from Natasha, and she's like, or maybe it was specifically from Vera, I think it was from Natasha, like, hey, y'all need to come back. Hey, Mom, we're in the middle of something right now, and like, you know, like we're doing this thing in the talent, like again, poor communication, but essentially like, look, we're in a situation where we can score big and get them out of the picture. She's like, no, you fucking pieces of shit, get back here now, do what I tell you. So they do, and they're trying to explain it, and she just slaps them both. They're like, no, you think this is a game? We're trying to save the fucking world, and you guys are off, like, doing this shit. I can't believe how stupid and useless I think they literally explain it. It's like, yeah, we're, like, trying to, like, since we weren't able to do this, we challenged them to a duel so we can, you know, try and take their shit. And she's like, you fucking idiots. What do you mean, these fucking idiots? They almost fucking got rid of the competition. They could have won that, and then bam, season's over. Now granted, with the three main characters have actually said, yeah, sure, I mean, student council, you can get our necklaces. No, of fucking course they wouldn't have. But they actually, like, had a really good plan. And also the idea of a duel, regardless of how, like, they set it up, you could really rig that in your favor, which Ver does. He's like, hold on a second. We can use this to our advantage. So, like, Natasha, that's like, here's two really good scenarios. Like, we can win here, or we can use this situation to our advantage. And she doesn't, despite the fact that she seems like she's supposed to be the smart one really in charge. No. How does she react? She just berates and slaps her kids. Fucking awful person. The last thing is when she goes to meet with the U.S. military and doesn't expect them to turn their weapons on her. She's like, oh my god, like, I can't believe you would actually do this, you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, do you remember the first episode when you hijacked a concert, like this big international event, and said, we are international terrorists, and we're gonna fuck over the entire world and all its countries unless you give us a bunch of territory? Like, you went to the U.S. government after presenting yourselves as such, and you didn't expect them to turn their guns on you despite being an international terrorist. Is there a brain in there, or is it just a bunch of rocks? Like, you're dumb. You're really dumb. And you're not supposed to be. And that's what bothers me. It's not like this is kind of like a dumb character, but it is what it is. Like, no, she's supposed to be smart and in charge, and she's not. And she treats her kids like shit. Because it's both of these. It's like, yeah, like when you did that, you actively put Maria in danger. Now, she protected you and got you out of there. And it's like, yeah, like essentially you brought her for protection, but you also put her in danger. With Akka and Suku, you were just abusing them. You fucking piece of shit. Like, again, I this is something I almost brought up earlier, but I didn't. But I feel like I kind of have to. I know in the Sea Cats thing, here's a tangent. We were talking about Rosa. I have a lot to say about Rosa because I found, like, despite how horrible she is and can be, there's a lot to really sympathize with when it comes to Rosa Ushinomiya. There is a lot of depth to this character. It's like, if you can look past, I hate saying it like this, but like, if you can look past the child abuse, there is a really sympathetic person. But I get it if you can't look past the child abuse. It is unforgivable. With Natasha, for me, there is no depth. There's nothing to look past. It's just you're pretty awful at what you're doing while also just being pretty awful. You don't get a lot of like really interesting sympathetic backstory or history. Again, the closest you get is Maria thinking about their lives together and growing up and like, man, I remember my mom used to beat me, but what do you know? They're both of the kids are named Maria. Like, I remember my mom used to beat me, but she wasn't smiling when she did it. She looked really sad. I guess it's okay then. Okay. Gosh, that's only in G. GX. To me, GX is one of the few seasons that actually gets away with this issue because of Elf9. Carol, like I said, is like, this is someone who's like, I want to destroy the entire fucking world because I want revenge for my dad, and I've twisted it enough to where I can convince myself I'm doing it to make him happy and make him proud. And yes, Hibiki is able to get through to her by the end, but it's not Carol that gets saved. It's Elf9, which is Carol's auto-score homunculi clone that also has her memories, but she didn't see the dad's final wishes as, destroy the world to learn about. She's like, no, actually live and experience life and know things that way. What I love about it is, like, here's the version of Carol that's completely insane and is really cool for it. Here's the version of Carol who's not, and who, like, interpreted her dad's message the right way, but is still a likable, sympathetic character. The show is able to have its crazy final boss Carol and also make her a sympathetic character at the same time without it really feeling bullshitty. And even when Carol does kind of get her redemptive moment, she's essentially like, I'm giving myself another chance, but it's more like saving Elf9's life. It's like she is saving the innocent part of herself while letting the more cold version of herself die. Now, she does come back in XV, and you can argue if it even really makes sense or not, but I really liked it, so I'm cool with it. Like, I'll give it a pass. But I think the villains and, like, the sympathy actually works really well in GX, and the auto scores are never presented to be sympathetic. They're just like, no, we're doing what our boss tells us to do. We love our boss. Like, we'll fucking die for her. Literally, that's our plan. But I like that there's never moments with the auto scores where, like, this is my backstory. Like, this is why you should sympathize with me. It's like, no, thanks. You killed me. That was the plan. Bye. The Bavarian Illuminati, also, what I like about them, because I think they're another antagonist that does that pretty well, is that while, yes, they kill a lot of people, never a great way to start a sentence. Gives me shades of Log. You may have killed millions of people, but at the very least, you made me happy. It's like, they've killed a lot of people, but there's a respect for the people they've killed. We are not just killing people because we're monsters. We are doing that to harness, like, their energy so we can build a new world. Because we need one. The curse of Bilal and communication and shit, it also creates a caste system. It creates this unfair distribution of power. You have masters and slaves. I would know, I grew up as a slave. And if I can change that world order, that unfair sense of control, I am going to do it. I will give my life to do it. And if I have to take the lives of others to do it, I also will. It works because, like, when you say it out loud, you're like, okay, your plan, while super fucked up, you do have a sympathetic motivation. And even though you do horrible things, you're like, I'm doing this because I have to, not because I want to. And you do see the conflict. You do see the respect for the dead. So, whenever, like, she's talking to Hibiki, what I love about it is she's not just like, you can't talk to me because you don't fucking understand. Like, she tries that, And because Hibiki's done this for a couple seasons, she's like, I'm not listening. Fuck you. Shut up. I'm still gonna try to do this. And there's a point where it becomes very clear that Saint Germain's like, she's right. There's maybe another way to do this. Like, she seems reasonable. We can talk. But I've come too far to be able to just talk at this point. I've done too much horrible shit. I have to keep going. And I find that really interesting. And the fact that the three alchemists are very close. And like there's definitely scenes where like they kind of talk shit to each other, they tease each other a bit. But again, one of my favorite moments of the show, and especially of Axis, is after Kags' apparent death, Prelotti just like pours like a glass of milk for her, a glass of wine for Kags, just like tips her glass. Like my friend isn't here, but I'm gonna share one last drink with her. And after Prelotti's supposed death, Saint Germain just like throws a couple flowers off a building. She's like, yeah, like I'm gonna, like, this is my memorial for my friends. It's not much, but it's something, because I do miss them. Their sacrifices are important. I wish it didn't have to be this way, but it is what it is. And then Adam is never sympathetic. Tiki is never sympathetic. The only thing with Adam is, like, you can make an argument that's like, well, the reason he's doing what he's doing is to make sure someone's in control, so that way Shemha isn't later, but nah, Adam's just a piece of shit. And then in XV, Fudo is not sympathetic. Fuck that guy. Shemha is not sympathetic. She's cool. I actually like her a lot. There's kind of an argument. Okay, with Shem, the argument to her being sympathetic is I want to destroy the curse. Now I want to destroy the curse of the law so I can become like stronger and all overpowered and I can turn humanity into my meat puppet calculators. Because that's a thing. Not sympathetic. But the idea of getting rid of the curse so people can understand each other better and fully communicate and there's no like weird bullshit. Yeah, you can get behind it to a degree. Then there's Noble Red. The characters who, in the second episode, attack a concert, because you never go to a Tsubasa concert in this show if you want to fucking live. Send out a bunch of alkanoids, which is murdering people. They take a little girl hostage, murder her. I mean, I don't remember how little she was. She looked like a teenager. She was still a kid, but it's like killed a kid in front of Tsubasa. Like took her, like used her as a meat shield, then murdered her, and then used that to brainwash Tsubasa to like make her more susceptible to Fudo shit. Oh, so they're horrible, vile, evil people. Got it. And that's fine. You can make them horrible. I like the fact that, like, we know we're the weakest group of antagonists so far. And we're going to use that to our advantage. We are going to fight dirty. We're going to take meat shields. Like, you're fighting Vanessa on the highway. She's like, hey, if you dodge my attacks are going to blow up the people behind you. So you really shouldn't dodge my attacks. That makes a lot of sense. I do like that. But then, by the end of the season, they're trying to be like, oh no, but we need to sympathize with them. Like, you get these scenes, kind of like with the Bavarian Alchemist, where like, they're really close. They care about each other a lot. See? You need to sympathize and care about this relationship. No, I don't care that they're close, because they're just horrible. But they're like, you know, they were treated badly, they were experimented on because they look different. You know, this one's a little wolf girl, this one's like got a bat thing going on, she's a cyborg. But they just want to be human again, man. They want to be human, they don't want to be seen as monsters. Well, here's a tip. If you don't want to be seen as a monster, don't fucking punch a hole through a girl's chest! Don't use her as a meat shield! Don't use people as fucking meat shields! Like, what the fuck? We're not monsters. Yes, you are. And if Noble Red were just pieces of shit, we're like, we are just vile scumbags doing everything we can to further our goal. If the goal wasn't something sympathetic and like they were just pieces of shit and just reveled in it, they would have been amazing. They would have had a, like, kind of like, again, like with the auto scorers. They're like, we're pieces of shit. We are literally trying to destroy the world, dude. If that was the plan, like, if they were literally just Shemha's minions, like, instead of the cast-offs of the Bavarian Illuminati, like, if Shemha is a god, let's say they are her angels. They're her familiars. Like, we are clearing the way for our boss. Despite being angels, we're not as strong as some of these other characters. But we're going to fight dirty as a result to get our boss back. And again, like, our boss isn't super sympathetic, so you're not like, man, we're really rooting for them. Like, no, you're all fucking horrible. But, like, that works. That's really kind of cool. Fuck you, but I like that how much I hate you. But the fact that by the end, they're like, no, we want you to feel sympathy for them because they're just people. They're not monsters. They get this, they sacrifice themselves to help the main cast. Isn't it so sad that they died? I was cheering when they died. Like, I was happy to see them go. Nah, 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 nah. Am I feeling any sympathy? Nah, 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 nah. Hey, goodbye. Like, that was how I felt when Noble Red died, dude. Like, fuck y'all. You should have just taken a page out of the auto scores book. I'm like, we're pieces of shit. We love it. Those are the main weaknesses on the show for me. It's the inconsistent quality of character arcs. And also the villains when they're just sympathetic when they've reached a point where they really shouldn't be. I've already been talking for an hour and I got a lot of shit left. I'm gonna go ahead and take a break. I'm gonna go drink some water. And then I will come back and continue the vid. Okay, so I think what I had said I was going to do was, now that I talked about the strengths and the weaknesses, I was just kind of going to go season by season and give my overall thoughts. But I realized everything I was going to say is something I'd either already pointed out in more detail or is something I can talk about in more detail when I'm talking about my rankings. So I'm just going to skip that and move straight to the rankings. So the first thing I want to rank, because it's fucking Symphogear, is ranking the quality of the climaxes. So for me, going from 5 to 1, my least favorite climax in any season is I guess it's also important for me to say the climax to me is generally the last 3 episodes. Not just the finale, but it usually starts around episode 11. So for me, the weakest is GX. I think... excuse me. What makes it weak to me is the fact that earlier in the season, around episode 6 or 7, there was already a fight with Carol. And in that fight, she used her transformation, so we got to see her new form. We get to see how insanely strong she is. And once, the 3 main characters are able to use their Ignite forms, they're able to beat her. Now, yes, she's doing more cool shit. Instead of just using her, harp and string shit, which is a really cool fighting style, she's actively singing, and it's making her stronger. She's got a big fuck-off castle with the chateau, which is, tuning her music and making her even stronger. You do see, these big fucking lasers and shit carving up and dissecting the planet. It's that's cool, and she does have this giant fucking electrical Zoid form that she starts using at the end of the fight. You're like, okay, it's all cool, but it just feels like this is shit I've seen before from this character on a bigger scale, but I've seen it already. Where I feel like the previous 2 seasons, and then most of the ones after also, I guess there's only 2 seasons. There's one of the ones after also, and even kind of the next one, does a good job of really upping it. It's not just here's some shit, but bigger. It's just crazy ass shit for these last few episodes, and GX does that, but not to the same degree. I remember by the time I was done, I felt really underwhelmed by the climax. Man, I was watching this and I kind of wanted to take a nap. That's not a good sign, especially for fucking Symphogear. My expectations were here, and what I got was around here. The next one I would say is probably XV. I think the actual final boss fight with Shemha is really good. And I really like the music that's in the fights. I love her fight with Carol. I think it's really cool shit. It's like the actual fight with the final boss. I know I just said this. I was like, I don't want to repeat myself, but here I am. That part of the climax is really good. But like I said, the climax is the last 3 episodes, which includes the shit on the moon, which I don't love. Like, the actual fights, like Milark doing her cool make a bat clone out of, like, my blood and shit, like, that was cool. But it's also the, like, okay, we're just fighting Noble Red, and sure, Noble Red's, like, strong now, but it's still Noble Red. I'm just at a point where I don't care about these characters. And we're trying to make them sympathetic in, like, our last 3 episodes. Or it's like, they've been trying to make them sympathetic the whole time. We're like, now we're really focusing on that. Like, it's just not working. It's really not working. The last episode's pretty fucking good. But the whole of the climax doesn't quite work as well for me. Next on the list is just Of Gear, Season 1. Which, the last 3 episodes starts with Shoot the Moon, which I've already talked about, like how much I love it. The Tower of Babel moon laser is one of my favorite moments and set pieces in the entire show. It's like, this is kind of when Symphogear becomes Symphogear. I feel like G is when it really comes into its own, like the climax of G, maybe a little bit before that. But this, to me, was like the first glimpse into the greatness that I was going to be witnessing. I love that shit. I love just the concept, again, of the Tower of Babel moon laser, Chris using her swan song, and like the 2 blasts going at it and then blowing off part of the moon. I love how Biki loses, like, she goes completely apeshit, and Tsubasa has to fight her down. And then, Biki is watching Tsubasa fight Fiend and unable to win. And even like she's in the shadow form, she's fucking crying, seeing her friend getting her ass beat. She thinks Subs is dead. She thinks Chris is dead. She starts Swan Song and everyone comes back to life and it makes no sense, but it's cool. Fiend turns into the Whore of Babylon in like this Ava Angel form, which Carol didn't have. They fight that. Hook shotting the part of the moon down. It's like, cool, we now gotta go fly into space and break this shit and save the planet. That is a fucking climax. That is amazing. And unlike XV, it's the final boss is the antagonist the entire time of the climax, and they just keep doing cool shit with it, and it's like better than anything else in the season to that point. It is great. The next one I have, my second favorite climax of the series, it's G. It's Season 2. I loved it. Now, yes, part of it, it's not just focusing on the final boss, the Nephilim, which is not super interesting. It's just a monster. But I think what works about it is, like, even though we're still dealing with Maria and Akka and Suku, it feels a lot better than with Noble Red, because like I said, I don't give a fuck about Noble Red. I don't like these characters, even though I'm supposed to. But I do with Akka and Suku. I like what we're doing with their character arcs. It feels like we're coming to a strong conclusion. I fucking love the part, because I don't think the Miku fight is part of the climax with how I'm defining it, because I think that was episode 10. Still really cool shit and still important. So maybe episode 10 is also kind of part of the climaxes, which even for XV doesn't help. It's like, that's the rocket fight, which, sure, it's kind of cool. Okay, it is cool, because that's when Suku does the shield yo-yo mech thing with her amalgam form, which is awesome. But I'm also like, we're just dealing with Noble Red. That's fine. Like, they really kind of brought down the season for me, like, the more I thought about it, if I'm being honest. XV ended up not being my favorite season, but we'll get to that. This is the spoilers. Where was I? G, that's right. So, like, that shit was really cool. One of my favorite moments in the G climax, I mean, it is Biki punching a fireball. That was just great. But it's when she confronts Maria, just grabs the Kunger, and then just does the song and takes it like, no, this one's mine. I fucking love that shit. The fight with Chris and Tsubasa, I think, is pretty cool. The fight with Akka and Suko, I think, is really good. But the final fight with the Nephilim, They're doing like the Spirit Bomb Swan song. It's like, you think you can win with only 6 songs? No, we have 7 billion. And they just start kicking its ass. And then they all get new forms. They're fighting it in space. They're like, okay, we have the Staff of Solomon. We're going to open I'm pretty sure they're like in the vacuum of space at this point. Like, we got to open this portal into the treasury of Babylon and knock it inside, and they're doing it, then it grabs onto Maria and starts dragging her in, and she's like, no guys, it's okay, you can leave. And you're like, we ain't leaving any soldiers behind. So they all jump into the portal, start fighting all of the noise, which are fucking everywhere. Like, okay, what do we have to do? We have to get the staff back, open a portal, and get through the portal, and not let that thing follow us. Like, plan. And so they start doing that shit. And then there's a point where they open a portal, they start going down, and then the thing blocks their path. It's like, no, motherfuckers, I'm going in. It starts going down. Like, okay, what are we gonna do? What the fuck do you think we're gonna do? So they hold hands, start singing, and then Biki and Maria do their thing. We're like, yeah, what is the fastest distance between 2 points? A straight fucking line, and impale this thing and go right through it, go through the portal. They land on the beach. The staff is right there. They can't move because they've used so much energy and are exhausted. Like, hey man, the thing's coming. Can anyone grab the staff and close the portal? No, I'm trying, dog. And no one has the energy. And then the song helicopter just lands and Miku just starts fucking Baywatching her way down the beach, grabs the staff, fucking throws it into the troposphere, and then it goes into the portal and fucking explodes and creates a singularity, saving the world. It is an incredible climax, because like I said, after GX, I was like, man, I could use a nap after watching this. After G, I was like, dude, I don't smoke. I want to smoke a cigar after that. That was incredible. I felt exhausted. It's kind of funny. I'm like, man, like, I could have used a nap after it because I just felt so exhausted. But, oh, it's so fucking good! And somehow Axis is a better climax than that. To me, what really helps Axis is I had no idea where the fuck it was going at that point. Episode 11 is when Tiki becomes like the Ava angel goddess thing. I was like, huh. This seems like, I figured Adam would be the final boss, but we're still fighting him, and he throws his hat, and it makes this fucking metallic clang when it hits shit, which I love. There's also the part where he gets his arm is fucked up, so he just rips his arm off because he's a robot, uses it, like, bangs it against his head to straighten it out, and then just starts using his arm as a fucking sword. Oh, it's wonderful. I'm like, it's episode 11, and we're already fighting what looks to be the final boss. This is early. Huh. I'm excited to see where this goes. And then they take care of it. Yeah. Sorry, I just felt like a piece of bread and I've got some... Here, I need to drink some water real quick. So they beat that. And then you got the shit, which, by the way, this is all happening, like, in proximity to Hibiki's birthday. Happy birthday, Biki. After they beat it, the god energy that Tiki absorbed to become this thing goes into Hibiki. And then in episode 12, she emerges as a god. So she is now the final boss, and she has to have this fight with her friends who are using the power of music and the power of friendship to calm her down. And of course, it takes Miku communicating with her, because communication and teamwork makes the dream work. And it depowers her. Excuse me. And then Adam ends up taking the god power. No, because I think it was like he wasn't able to take the god power? Or it's like maybe he was able to and then she knocked her out. I don't exactly remember. But then Adam ends up doing some shit. He powers up. He becomes the final boss like he was supposed to. And I think the fight with Adam is okay for about the first half. It's like, it's pretty good. It's cool. I'm seeing some cool shit. And then you get the second half. Wherever, like, Hibiki, who is exhausted after being in her Symphogear for almost like 2 days straight. She has not been able to get this thing maintained the way everyone else has. Is exhausted. She's like untransformed, or like she's about to get her ass beat, and then everyone's like, no, Biki! And then when they reach out to her, their Symphogears transfer from them onto Hibiki, and now she's got, I think it was like this rainbow colored armor or some shit. And then she just starts using all their shit. She's like, I think she doesn't do the Tsubasa spin. I think she does the sword beam. I think she gets Maria's whip sword. She does something with the scythe. She starts riding in the saw. And then she, like this all happens. Then she gets grabbed by Adam, uses Chris's like armor burst. Which leads to possibly my favorite moment in the entire show. As much as I say I love the first 6 minutes of season 3, and I do, I think this is my favorite scene in Symphogear. When Hibiki does that, and she's in her normal clothes, she's on Adam's shoulder, and she is running she's on his hand, and then she starts running down his arm to his shoulder, thinking, I just have to punch you. I know I've had my things that like I don't want to hurt people, and like all I can do is punch. But if it's the one thing we need right now, if I could get like 2 good hits in, you're done, buddy. And she's just fucking booking it. She grabs her necklace, and instead of singing the transformation song, she's fucking screaming at the top of her lungs as Adam grabs her again, and she busts out of it in this golden armor, runs up to him, and just starts punching the ever-loving man shit out of him. And all I could think of, as I'm just seeing punch, is just, Ura. And I've seen edits of that scene where they just did that. Like, I'm hearing fucking, like, Jotaro's victory music in the background. And you're just hearing the ura as she's punching the shit out of him. And it's impeccable. It is god tier. Pun intended. I'm like, man, G is the closest to topping this, but I don't think it does. Access was just chef's kiss, phenomenal fucking climax. After that, I have ranking the qualities of all the overall character arcs, like by season, which I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really as, like, confident about this ranking. What I have at the bottom, I have G. And even thinking about it, I'm like, well, I don't remember Tsubasa having much of an arc. Chris had a little bit of an arc about, you know, it's like, essentially being more okay with relying on people and shit, and, like, being more okay with making friends. Like, it was fine. It made sense. It didn't get a whole lot of focus. I thought it was okay. I've talked already about how I don't like Hibiki's arc. I like the idea of it, but the way it's executed doesn't super work. And because of that, like, Suku's actual arc of my friend, like, we're starting to maybe get our hands a little too dirty. I think we're kind of straying from our path. I think is fine. I think it works. I like Akatsuki's quite a bit of... I now believe that I am Fiend, that I have this creature in me that is going to start eroding my soul. So I want to make sure that with the time I have left, because the more I use this power, the more I'm going to, like, be eroded. I want to make sure that the person I care about most stays alive. Like, if I have to use this power, I want to use it for them. But it's not as selfless as it sounds, because I want there to be someone who remembers me after. And I'm willing to get my hands dirty so someone remembers me. And, like I liked it in G. After Axes, where you get that moment of her being like, yeah, like, I don't even know what my fucking birthday is. It was just the day I was adopted by the orphanage. I don't even know, man. It's like, that's really sad. It's like, I just want someone to remember me. It feels like in later seasons, it just, to me, feels a little bit stronger. I thought Maria's was fine. I actually liked it quite a bit. So that'd be it. I was like, I have it at the bottom, I think mostly because the 3 main girls, it's like, Tsubasa doesn't really have one, Chris's is okay, and Hibiki's isn't very good. And I think the really good arcs are for the antagonists, which would be more of like, these are points to make the antagonists better. So I think I'm more okay with, like, it's kind of at the bottom. XV is what I have next, which is a weird one. Because I like Tsubasa's arc. It's kind of doing something similar to her arc from season 1, but with like a darker, I can't even say a darker tone, because in season 1, like, her best friend died and she was dealing with that. Like, it's not quite a retread. I think there's still some different, like, ground that it's going over, but I think it's good. No one else really has one, though. I didn't feel like Hibiki was really undergoing any kind of change. Chris was chilling. Maria was chilling. Maria was just kind of helping people with their arcs. And then Akka and Suku have already had shit the last couple seasons. Like, this one, like, do I say it's really good? Because the one arc was really good and everyone else didn't really have one. So it's bad because there wasn't as many, but it was good because everyone had already had their shit. I don't know. I mean, after that, I have GX because I love Tsubasa's. I like one of the big themes of GX, which is about legacy and the relationship between a father and daughter, and what a father leaves for his daughter. Carol's relationship with her dad, as well as Elf9's relationship with her dad, which I already talked about, I think works really well. Then you have Biki's, which, like I said, I love the way it starts, and I like the idea of the ending, but if it had been, I'm going to forgive him because that's just what I should do. If I'm willing to forgive people who are literally trying to destroy the world and give them second chances, I should be able to do that for my own father. That is what makes me a hypocrite, and I don't want to do that. I think that would have been, like, fucking perfect. But no, hey, when you abandoned me, you didn't really abandon me because of some shit you had said to me before this incident that I've, held with me ever since. Like, what it really reminds me of is Ricky Bobby. Like, if you're not first, you're last, Ricky Bobby. And he's like, hey, Dad, you remember when you said that to me? You're not first, you're last. It stuck with me forever. And he's like, dude, I was, like, drunk out of my mind. I was just saying some bullshit. That doesn't even make sense. Why is that so important to you? Like, I got kind of that vibe from it more. Not that, yeah, he said this and it stuck with you forever because he was always with you. He was like, nah, he just kind of said some shit and you put a lot of meaning into it, which is great, but he still abandoned you because he was a piece of shit dad. Just, after that I had Axis, because I actually really liked the FIS girls and their arcs of, without Linker, we're fucking useless, but we're gonna do everything we can anyways, and, like, we are gonna push ourselves as hard as far as possible. And Elf9 in the background going, I also feel useless because I really want to help with this, but I'm having trouble doing it. But also doing the best she can. I just found it really endearing. And I liked Chris's arc at Axis a lot. Of having to make a hard call. Which, in the context of it, it was, you're either going to let this kid die or you're going to shoot his leg off. I mean, he wants to be a soccer star and you're shooting his, like, that's pretty fucked. Like, I don't want to make it seem like, yeah, like, that's not a big deal. It's a big deal, but it was that or he would fucking die. Come on. And how there's the thing where that guy was the little brother of a woman she knew who worked with her parents. And she blames that woman for letting her parents die because there was a bomb and the bomb killed the parents. And she was supposed to... the way they explained it made it sound like she fucked up in scanning the material or scanning the package and vetting the package. And so the bomb went through under her nose. And by the time she realized her mistake, it was too late. And Chris was like, you're the one who fucked up. You got my parents killed. Because child whose parents just died, she needed someone to blame. And here, the same woman's like, you fucked up my brother's life. I hate you. It's like, now you know how I feel of hating someone forever because of what they did. I'm like, you understand these are two different scenarios, right? Like, in your scenario, it was, the way I understand it, excuse me, your active negligence is what led to the death of 2 other people. Like, you didn't set up the bomb, like, you're not the murderer, but your negligence did lead to their deaths. Chris's action led to your brother surviving. He's still not, and then even by the end of it, it's like, yeah, he gets a prosthetic. He's gonna be okay. He's gonna be able to still play soccer. So it's like, cool. So what Chris did was she saved your brother's life, and what you did led to her parents dying. These are not equal scenarios. But I do like the kind of questions Chris is asking. She's like, this is what it is like to be on the other side. Like, to have done something and to just be hated by someone for it. This doesn't really feel that good. I thought that what I really liked was how the few times when the family wants to talk to her and kind of maybe try to work something out or like thank her for what happened, she's like, I don't want to hear it. I'm not ready for this. I don't want to talk to them. I can't go. And I think it's like Tsubasa. I think Tsubasa went with her to be like, nah, like if you need this, I got you, because Tsubasa in action is just a fucking homie to everybody. It's fantastic. And then I do genuinely think the best character arcs are in Gear. You've got Hibiki and her relationship with Miku, which I talked about, like her struggling with the fact that this is my best friend and I want to tell her everything, but I can't because the government will be mad at me and I can't deal with that. And also going from yeah, I got powers, I want to help people, I have no idea what I'm doing, and her becoming a lot more competent along the way. I just like that a lot. Tsubasa of, just dealing with all of her issues. Oh, that's another thing in Season 3. Season 3 was Tsubasa going from a sword to become, like, I am wings. I fucking love that scene. Season 1 was, she's very much a sword still, but she's becoming a bit more human. She's becoming more human in her relationship with Hibiki, letting her walls down, accepting that I can have another partner after what happened to Kanade. It's okay for someone else to use Gungar. And just the bond they had as the show was going on, I thought was really good. I love Chris's arc in Season 1 of, it's very understandable why she has all these walls. Like, she was kidnapped. Her parents were killed. She was kidnapped. It seemed like she was underwent experiments, possibly something worse. I'm not sure. When you see her with Fine, who's the only person that's like, I'm going to take you in. I'm going to look after you, make sure you're okay. This person is emotionally abusing her and physically abusing her, but it's all she has. It's really fucking sad. She genuinely does not know how to relate to people because she didn't have the opportunity to do so for most of her childhood. She has literally been a victim. And her relationship with Genjuro in particular, and him being like, I understand that adults have done horrible things to you. But not every person is like that. Not every adult is like that. And I want to do what I can as an adult to look after this kid, because that's what she needs. I have to take some responsibility because there was someone there who needs my help. And I liked it a lot. Like, they have just a few, which is, looking back on it, I'm like, man, like, I really liked what they were going for in Season 1 of him kind of becoming like a surrogate father figure to her after losing both her parents. And there's like nothing about that in later seasons. They interact a little bit. Like, there's that scene in, I think it's specifically in G, when they're training and she's like, I just don't want to fucking be here. This shit is way too much for me, which is really funny. You're like, yeah, that's the extent of their interactions together after Season 1. Which, yeah, I don't really like that, because I liked their interactions a lot in Season 1. But overall, like I was saying earlier, the character arcs, sometimes in Symphogear, they're really good. Sometimes they don't work as well. I think they're consistently good across the board in Season 1. In the other seasons, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're okay, sometimes they just don't happen because the characters are just kind of chilling. The next ranking, to me, this is one I could definitely talk about. It's the villains. It's ranking, and it's not just the main group, like, ranking the members of Noble Red against the Bavarian Illuminati. It's also like their bosses, the final boss, and any other kind of miscellaneous characters. So as you probably guessed at the bottom, I have the XV because I fucking hate Noble Red because I think they suck. I like Shemha a lot. I think as a final boss, she is cool as hell. I love her design, which is just Miku wearing like a really cool dress, but I love that, like how creepy her eyes look. I love Miku's voice acting in that scene. It like not just that scene, like whenever she is Shem, it's fantastic. I love how badass she is. I think she has a really cool backstory and a cool plan. No, she's not sympathetic. She's trying to turn everyone into her meat puppet calculators. Like, what the fuck? That is bonkers, but that is classic Symphogear. It's really good. Then you get Fudo, who on the one hand, I like Fudo a lot because he's a massive piece of shit. And like, they never try to make him sympathetic. You can understand where he's coming from to a degree, but there's a line and he fully crosses the line and never looks back. He murders his own son, tries to murder his granddaughter, who's actually his daughter, you sick fuck. Not to the degree of Kenzo, but he has the same voice actor as Kenzo. I was like, is this guy just typecast as like crazy grandpa? I was like, no. He also tries to kill his other son and Genjuro. Like, his fight is also really, really good. I love how unrepentant of a piece of shit he is. But also, he's just a massive cunt. Like, I don't like him. I look at someone like Ver, like, this is a massive piece of shit. But he's so entertaining that he gets away with it. Fudo isn't super entertaining. Like, he's badass eventually, like, when you get to his fight. But before then, he's just the old bastard who's just a piece of shit. And yeah, like, I've seen this voice actor go crazy before, and Fudo's a lot more restrained. Like, he can still yell, but I just never found him nearly as entertaining as Kenzo. I'm like, no, you're just a monster. And so while I do respect it, I still don't really like him. And yeah, I think Noble Red just fucking sucks. I think, like, as much as I like the fact that they compensate for their weakness by playing really dirty and underhanded, it doesn't... Oh, sorry, I'm checking them real quick. It doesn't change the fact that they're really weak, so the fights with them are really easy, and it feels like the writers had to make up bullshit for them to stay alive. Like, when Biki uses the amalgam form for the first time, she's like, cool, I am about to rip all of them a new one. And then it's like, hey, by the way, we just got a call from the government saying, we can't use these forms, and you have to let the villains go. That's some bullshit. Or it's like, Chris and Maria beat Vanessa and are, like, about to take her in, and it's like, oh, look, the chateau just appeared right over there, and Vanessa's able to use this as a convenient distraction to blah, 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 and get away. Like, this feels unsatisfying. It doesn't feel like the villains are getting away because they're clever or because they're strong enough to win a fight or get into a position where they can escape. It's just, yeah, if we let the main characters go ham, the villains would just lose every time, and we can't have that happen because we have 10 more episodes. So they get away, and it's just unsatisfying, and they try to give them a redemption that just doesn't work. They suck. After that, I have Axes, which to me, I really like the Bavarian Illuminati trio a lot. Tiki is super annoying and doesn't really do anything. And even her role as like this big final boss monster, of the 3 final boss monsters, okay, I don't know if I would say she's the least cool, because she is still kind of cool in like her form and shit, and her just like firing hyper beams, but her character is just annoying and doesn't really add to much, and she's not even the final boss. Adam, the fact that he's naked half the time, I just think is really funny, and again, it's like he gets naked. What are you trying to show us? Well, funny you should ask. If I were to venture a guess. But, the fact that the first time he shows up, he fucking uses a nuke. Like, he just alchemizes a nuke and shit. Like, that's fucking cool. The shit he does in his fight is really cool. But also, you gave him this grand fucking entrance, and then had to significantly nerf him after, because if he was fighting with that kind of power, it would just be over. That's disappointing. He doesn't, like, his character is just like, I never really got much out of him. He's okay. He's fine. He's not Fine, but he's fine. And Tiki's not good. I really like the other three, but they have two millstones to me where I like pulling them down. So overall, the Axis villains, I'd put it fourth. In third, I have the villains from G. Like I said, I do like the FIS girls a lot. I do like their arcs. I think they work. Ver is just great television. His facial expressions, his animations. I just remember a part where he goes like, yeah! He just fucking like jumps and punches the air because he's so happy. And Sugita just nailing every fucking line of dialogue. But it also has Natasha, and as I've said, I fucking hate Natasha. So it also kind of gets brought down a bit. In second place, you have Gear, which has Season 1 Chris. And as I was saying earlier, I love Chris's arc in Season 1. I think it's really, really good. And it does have Fine. And on the one hand, I'm like, I like her because of how much I like the Ryuko persona. The person who is working with the government as a mole. It's like, I've got my own crazy shit that I'm doing, but I have made myself invaluable to this side and to this side, and I am playing both sides so I can get what I want. I respect it a lot. She's also naked like half the time, and she's really hot, and I gotta give that to her. But also, like, I do like her final fight. I think it's really cool. Like, I like just how much of a piece of shit she is, and the Tower of Babel Moon Laser plan. Like, it's amazing. It's probably my favorite out of any season, except maybe Carol's. Speaking of which, GX is my favorite. I think it has the weakest climax and final boss fight, as I said earlier. But like I said, what I love about it is here is the antagonist that you made a real piece of shit, but found a clever way to still make her sympathetic with Elf9. That I think is really, really cool. I like that Carol's thing is, I'm here for revenge. But how did I want to say that? Maybe I just wanted to say I like how simple her motivation is. Like, okay, I think this is what it is. I like that her motivation is just simple. Like, I want revenge on the world for taking my dad. But she knows how bad that sounds. So she almost had to invent a way to make it make sense to her. It's like, well, Dad wanted me to live and understand the world. But the only way we can understand things is to dissect it. So he wanted me to dissect it. Cool. I have now found a way to rationalize my insanity. I love that. I think that's actually really cool. And as I've said, while talking about GX and other seasons, I love the auto scores. I love the way they look. I love their dull designs. I love the way they move. I love their elemental power sets. I love their fucking shark teeth. I like most of their fights. I like how badass they are and how they're just consistently in control. Is there something else I wanted to say about the auto scores? I don't think so, but it's just, the villains in GX to me just kind of checked every box that I needed. I wish the climax was better, but man, just throughout the season, it was just like they did what they needed to do, and I think they're the best in this in the show. Now I'm gonna ranking every girl's best transformation fight song. This is not in order. I just have it like Biki, Subs, Chris, Maria, Aka, and Suku, but season by season. For me, Biki's is Genkai Toppa from GX. Tsubasa is Gecko Noken, I think, from G. Chris is Makyu Ichival from Gear. Maria is Resso Gungar, also from G. Akatsuki is Mikanse. I can barely read what that says. From XV. Shout out to her song from G, though. It was really fucking close. And as you hear her song from GX or Axes, like halfway, there's like a minute and a half in, there's just a line where it sounds like somebody else, fuck! And I just thought that was really funny. I had to shout that out. And then for Suku, it's her song from G. Okyo Shul Shigana? I think that's how I have it written down. So overall, 3 of 6 are from G, and then a 4th was also very nearly from G. I think G overall has the best fight songs. Ranking the openings from 5 through 1, G is my least favorite. And I feel like it is very important. I say all the openings are fucking fantastic. I love all of them. It's just, I think G is my least favorite. Then I have Gear. And I think while both of these are still really good, the next 3 are just like, these are all phenomenal, like god tier openings. I would go Axes at 3, GX at 2, and XV at number 1. Ranking the ending songs, I have GX at the bottom, I have XV at 4, and those are the 2 that just never really clicked with me. I don't, like, hate them, but it's like, they just never really did it. I really like the next 3 a lot. At number 3, I have the song from G, or I have the ending from G, which is probably my favorite song of the 3, but I think its visual background is not as interesting as the other 2. At number 2, I have the song from Gear, and then at number 1, I have the ending song from Axis. Ranking the transformations from XV from bottom to top. At the bottom, I have Maria's. I just kind of found it the least interesting. It was, I don't even remember like what she was like. Everyone else, I'm like, oh, okay, like you were doing this. Like Hibiki is like almost like doing a kata and she's like working out. Suku's got this figure skating thing going on. Akka's doing the pole dance. Chris is doing like gun twirls and shit. And like Tsubasa's doing all this crazy shit with her sword. I don't remember what Maria did. I remember watching it being like, oh, okay, that one's okay. It's fine. It's like, I have it at number 6. At number 5, I have Akatsuki's. So with hers, the Scythe pole dance. On the one hand, I love this because of just how insane it sounds. Like, yeah, it's a magical girl pole dance transformation sequence. Shout out Panty and Stocking. Just can't wait for the new season. That's going to be amazing. It's like, I love how insane it sounds. I love how creative it is. I love how after the pole dance, she just starts like holding her scythe and it's got its fucking jet engine going around. So she's scythe surfing. It's a ton of fun. It's like really well, like, they're all like really well animated. On the other hand, though, I'm like, she still looks like she's 12. And seeing someone who looks like a 12-year-old pole dancing, it doesn't do it for me. It's like, I like the idea. It's super creative. I don't know about this one, though, Chief. That's why I have her at 5. Number 4, I have Chris, which, again, like, I think the gun twirling just looks really cool. I'm a sucker for that kind of shit. I can't lie, though. I also just really like the fact that she loads her gun by having the bullets in her boobs, bounces them out, and then that's how she loads her gun. I guess it's kind of like the thing with Akka's. It's like, I think it's really creative, and it's pretty fun. I like watching boobs bounce more than I like a 14-year-old pole dancing. Shoot me for that. I think that's a pretty fair fucking take. But I've got Chris there. The next 3, it's kind of like those 3 are the last 3. Like, I like these at least to an extent. It's like I think they're really cool and creative. I thought Maria's was okay. These 3 I think are all fucking bangers. At number 3 I have Tsubasa's. It's just fucking cool. Number 2, I have Hibiki. It's also just really fucking cool. I just love how, like, well animated it is. Number 1, though, is Suku. I fucking love the figure skating. Like, I love figure skating. I think it's a beautiful sport. So, I loved it. And then just all the just cool yo-yo shit. Because I remember it was either in G or GX, they kind of started emphasizing the yo-yo thing. But it wasn't really part of her fighting style. And I think it was really around, like, Axis, and especially in XV. It's really part of her fighting style, and I loved watching her fight because of it. And all of her crazy, like, combination moves that she would do with Akatsuki. So just seeing it as, like, yeah, like, doing some cool shit with the yo-yo, that it transforms her head, or, like, transforms the parts in her arms, like, this is sick. This is awesome. I loved it. After that, I've got my, just my character tier list. It's like, Clay didn't watch this, so I'm not gonna do a full tier list video. I'm just kind of gonna say the rank, like, the tier, and then the characters I have there. My double S, my favorite character in the show, it's Hibiki. My S tier characters, like these are the characters I could make an argument for being my favorite. I've got Subs, Chris, Maria, Elf9, Carol, Genjuro, and Dr. Vare. My A tiers, like these aren't my favorites, but I still really like them. I would have, these also aren't ordered tier lists. I don't have like necessarily like in the S tier, I wrote Subs before Chris. It's not necessarily I like Tsubasa more than Chris. It's just how I wrote them down, like the order they came to mind. A tier, Ogawa, Miku, Aka, Suku. I don't remember their names, but I just have them written as the Beef Stroganoff trio, mostly just because of that fucking scene. They are like not in Axis or XV, but they peaked and then they dipped, and I respect it. Fiend and Ryuko, Shem, and then most of the auto scorers, Gary, Mika, and Lear. I've got Saint Germain, Kags, and Prelati in A tier too. B tier, these are characters that say I respect more than I like. This is where I have Farah. I didn't like her as much as the other auto scores for whatever reason. She just didn't do it for me as much. But I still don't dislike her. And Tsubasa's dad, like not Fudo in terms of that, but like the guy that she refers to as her dad. I have him in B. In C, I deadass never learned their names, but like, you know those two characters that work in song that are always at the computer, and they like did something at the start of Axis, but they don't really do a whole lot in the show? I never learned their names. They must have been said a couple times. I never learned them. Like, that to me is the definition of a C tier character. You're there. I kind of know what you do, but you don't really leave an impression either way. This is also where I have Adam. I am pretty neutral on Adam overall. Like, I think his fight is cool. I think they made him too strong because they had to nerf him. His motivation's just kind of like, whatever, he's just an asshole that wants to be in control. But the fact that he's naked half the time, I just think it's funny. I really do. Like, most of the time when they would walk in on him, he's just naked in a jacuzzi, just big chilling. Like, I kind of like that. Maybe I should put Adam in B, I don't know. And then Elsa from Noble Red, because, like, she's still a member of Noble Red. I don't like them. But she was the only one that, like, wasn't actively trying to kill Elf9. At least specifically. I mean, they kind of all were, but Miller's like, I'll fucking do it. And then Vanessa's like, I'll fucking do it. At least I could say that Elsa wasn't trying to kill one of my favorite characters directly. And to me, she was never as bad as the other two, so I can at least give her that. D tier. This is where I have Tiki. I originally put her in F, but I'm like, I don't hate you as much as these other two, so you're in D tier. I have Fudo in D tier, and I have Vanessa there too. My F tier characters, I've got two. I've got Biki's dad, and I have Natasha, and then my bottom of the fucking barrel character is Milark. Fuck you, you horrible, horrible person. The fact that the show wanted me to feel any degree of sympathy for this character after the donut scene in XV, no, this doesn't work. This doesn't work at all. There is a point where, like, it's kind of like what I was saying with Saint Germain. You can still have a character do horrible things, but make me still root for them at least to a degree, or make me try to understand them. Having a very sympathetic motivation, having a deep respect for other people, having good bonds with their comrades. Noble Red, they do the last one. They have a very good bond with their comrades, but there's no respect for other people. Milark is literally like salivating at the fact that she can murder people. Like, hey, I'm going to use this kid as a meat shield. You want to see a cool trick? Wow, you're horrible. Sympathetic motivation? It should be. The fact that, like, we're looked at as monsters because of the way we look, but we just want to be people again. Like, we want to be normal people and not ostracized and not tortured or abused because of our appearance. That is something sympathetic. And even then, I think if their thing, maybe if it was just, we want revenge on the world for treating us like shit, I would kind of get it. Doesn't make them sympathetic, but I get it. But the fact that we want to be, like, we're not monsters. Just because we look like this, we have like crazy powers, does not make us monsters. No, you're right. That is not what makes you a monster. What makes you a monster is how excited you were to murder people. How willing you are to do it. Like, I specifically also remember the scene with Elf, where she's like, hey, yeah, we kidnapped you because you're an alchemist. We need you to do some shit. And afterwards, they're like, okay, now we have to kill you because, you work for... The thing is, if they're like, okay, we have to kill you because you are still an alchemist, you can be a threat. We also still have a lot of... I'm going to say it's like we have a lot of hatred towards alchemists because of what the Illuminati did. It's like, that's understandable, but also, like, fuck you. But if it really was just, it's a business thing. You work for them, you're a threat. You've also, you've now seen our base, kind of an idea of what we're doing. We can't let you live. It is what it is. Like, that's how Vanessa handled it. And that's why I'm like, I can't put Vanessa in F because she wasn't like, ooh, I get to kill a child. It was like, hey, it's business. I gotta do what I gotta do. Melark was like, I'm excited to do this. I'm supposed to sympathize with you? I'm supposed to think you're not a monster? Nah, 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 nah. Nah, 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 nah. It didn't work. So, with all that being said, my ranking of the 5 seasons from 5 to 1. At number 5, I have the first season, Symphogear. I think it just doesn't look as good as the other seasons. I think overall it's not quite as hype as the other seasons. I do think it has probably, as I've said, the strongest overall character arcs. Like, it feels the most grounded out of all the seasons, which is something I do still like. I do still like the season. I think it has a really good climax, pretty strong antagonist, and a really good first episode. I would definitely recommend someone watch it. But if I'm looking at the seasons, I'm like, I don't know if I would be super excited to just rewatch season 1 again, but I might want to watch certain scenes. Number 4 would be G. I do think G is better. I think it does have the best individual songs from the characters. I think it has a super fun antagonist in Vare. I think the FIS girls, I don't think they're necessary. I don't want to say this. I think overall Gear has the better antagonist because they don't have Natasha bringing them down. But I love what they have in Vare, and I really like what they have in FIS girls. There's definitely more hype shit, like punching the fucking train car in episode 1. You got another great concert in episode 1 where everything goes to shit. You do have some fun fights throughout. But you have the climax. And the climax is fucking amazing. After that, at number 3, this is where it started getting tough. Because I was like, I know Gear is my least favorite. I know G is right next. Now I'm not as sure, but at number 3 is where I have XV. And if I'm being honest, I think the fact that I binged it worked against it. Because while I had a lot of fun binging it, to me the season's just kind of all one big mesh, where I remember the first episode super well, because it was awesome. Like, it started with a fucking final boss fight. I remember there's parts here and there that I remember, like the fact that the fucking auto scores and Carol showed back up. I was like, oh, this is hype. This is super exciting. Like, my girls are back. And like, I remember the donut scene because, of course, I remember the fight with Fudo. So that, I feel like there are parts that I do remember. But unfortunately, like, I don't feel as connected to it as some of the other seasons. I remember when I finished it, I was like, yeah, like, this was incredible. And I still think it's really fucking good, don't get me wrong. I was like, dude, like, it's between this or GX. I think it clears Axis. And then as I thought about it more, I'm like, I don't know if I can still say that. Because the more I think about it, I really think Noble Red brings it down. And I hate that because the other shit is really good. Shem is amazing. The opening is fucking amazing. Like, holy shit, the first episode is really good. And like, I fucking hate Fudo. He's a piece of shit. But I loved how much I hated Fudo. And the episode where they fight him is awesome. Like, holy shit. And I love the amalgam forms. Like, again, Suku's is fucking wild what she is doing with it. I love how slimy Noble Red is. But the fact that they tried to make these fucking slime ball monsters and be like, no, they're not. Kind of taints like a good chunk of the season where I enjoyed how much I hated them. Now I just hate them because I think they're just badly executed. And a good chunk of the climax is finishing up with them. And by that point, I just didn't care about them anymore. I would put it below the other two seasons. But I love the final scene of the show. Just, it's Biki and Miku. They're alone together. It's a really pretty night. And each of them is like, hey, I think Miku's like, there's something I really want to tell you. And I've been meaning to for a long time. I think I'm finally able to express it. And Biki's like, you know what? I have something to tell you too. And I think it's the exact same thing. I just really like that. My second favorite season. I was really going back and forth between the two of these. Like, as I was sitting there writing it down, I was like, okay, Axis is better than GX. I'm like, nah, GX is better than Axis. Nah, Axis is better than GX. GX is better than Axis. Ultimately, I decided that my second favorite season is Axis. It has the best climax. It has my favorite scene in the show. And fuck, it has such a fun first episode. And I also think it has really strong character arcs throughout. There's not even really a but there. It's like, it felt like there was like, but I'm like, nah, it's just really fucking good. But when I honestly thought about it, I was like, okay, which would I feel more down to do? Watch all of Axis or watch all of GX? Like, I'd probably just be down to watch GX. Like, if I were to buy a season of Symphogear on Blu-ray, which if I could buy all of them, that'd be sick. But it's like, if you could buy one, what would you buy? I'd probably want to buy GX. I think it's because of how much I love the villains. I was like, I also think the opening is great, which I said that for Axis, like XV too. But I was like, man, like, I loved the music in the season. I loved the antagonists. Yes, I don't think Biki's arc with her dad worked by the end. It's like there was like this like little bit of bullshit here that really bothered me. But I loved the start, and I do think the end still makes sense. It still sounds like something her character would do, just not for that reason. But what I really love is the dichotomy, or like how she relates to Carol with that. How both of them have this burden placed on them by their fathers, or that's how they see it. And this is how they deal with that. Carol decided, I'm going to fucking destroy the world. Elf9 decided, I am going to help the world as much as I can. And Biki decided, I'm going to shut him out of my life entirely. And then you've also got like Tsubasa and her dad, which is some also really interesting shit. I think the fights are really good. I do think the climax isn't as good as some of the others, especially not as good as Axis. But fuck, those first 6 minutes are really cool. They're so fun. I love them. I love them so much. Yeah, I think that's about it. Which is like, yeah, that's about it. It's been 2 fucking hours, which I kind of expected I would be talking about Symphogear for about 2 hours. So, to sum everything up, the show is not perfect. There are very few things I have ever seen, read, played, whatever, where I'm like, I feel like this either has no flaw, or, yeah, its flaws are there, but they're so minor, I don't care. Symphogear is not quite that. I feel like there are issues, and there are times where the issues really hold back the particular season. But I feel like the themes of the show are really well done and consistent throughout the show's run. The character, like your main cast, is very likable throughout the show's run. But the reason you watch Symphogear is because the music is good, and because you're fighting crazy with crazy, and the fights are amazing. I don't want to just be like, yeah, watch the show and turn your brain off, because that just sounds rude, because the show is trying with its character arcs, and I do feel like a lot of the times they do work, or they work well enough, though it's not just like, yeah, like turn your brain off and don't give a shit. But the music's really good, and the fights are really cool. And just watching how insane the show gets, like I said, Gear is my least favorite season. I would still recommend it. It's important to watch season 1 and just see the progression from this to the crazy shit you're getting by the end of the show, even by the end of the first season. It's fantastic. So with all of that being said, watch Symphogear.